Evening, everyone. It's great to have you with us this evening, and I just want to say that it's awesome being here. My name is Mark Shufflebottom, and I'm just here to introduce the fabulous Roxana Hadad, who is going to be talking to us tonight about makerspaces. And the slide up on the screen now, it confuses me immensely because of her being at Northeastern Illinois University, but she is currently in Los Angeles. So, Roxana, you can maybe explain and share all of that.
Sure thing. Thanks, Mark. My name is Roxana Hadad. I am Director of Math Science and Technology at the Center for College Access and Success at Northeastern Illinois University. However, I live in Los Angeles. I am working on I am the PI on the principal investigator on a grant that's studying computational thinking in makerspaces and how to assess them. I'm also a PhD student in educational psychology at the University of Illinois, also in Chicago. Um, and I'm doing my dissertation on how to create a computational thinking culture in makerspaces, um, how to create a place where you can uh, get students to think computationally, but in a making environment. So the reason I'm in Los Angeles is I also work with the Exploring Computer Science folks. They have developed a nationwide curriculum now for getting students introduced to computer science. Um, and also, my husband is a postdoc at UCLA. So, what we're going to talk about today is a real brief overview of makerspaces, what they are, and how they can impact your educational organization. Um, this is meant to be interactive, but we have a pretty small audience. So the whole point was to ask questions of you. So I should have asked beforehand. Debbie, are you okay with that? As you are my only audience member, um, it's pretty much asking you for if you're fine with that. Uh, so, okay, well, let's start off with what is a makerspace? And my definition of them is you need to have the two most important things are people and stuff, is what I think. Like, I think people get really hung up on when they hear makerspace that it's got to be this very I think they start moving into the fab lab kind of idea. Like you have to have a 3D printer and a laser cutter and you know, soldering equipment and all sorts of things. And it's not necessarily true. You can start off with, as long as you've got people who are interested in making stuff, and you have things like if you have cardboard tubes and glue and tape. The idea is to get people to make things. I think people also get kind of hung up on the idea of space, like you need a physical space to have a maker space. To respect, this is kind of true. You do want somewhere for people to commune and interact. However, you don't need a lot of space. Like literally, if you have in your classroom a desk in the corner, that's more than enough. That's completely fine. Just clear it off with all the papers you have on it. Put some, um, you know, cardboard tubes, some construction paper, some markers, some tape, some glue, and you know that can be your maker space, that one little table. But don't worry if you don't have a lot of stuff or space, as long as you have people who want to make stuff. That's what's really important. Um, so makers are people who are in a maker space. Anybody can identify as a maker. Most of us, I think, um, if you are watching this, you're probably a maker. You're probably somebody who's interested in creating in some way. Um, and it doesn't, I think, when we think of makers, generally, unfortunately, that's been kind of associated with just middle-aged men, middle-aged white men, have been kind of the maker community poster people, but it's making is becoming more diverse, and lots of people are taking it on. And most of us can identify as makers if you write, if you create videos, if you cook, if you all sorts of things, like anything like that that you're developing with your hands, or you're actually creating something that's external to your mind. You are a maker. Um, and so making is doing stuff in a makerspace, and that seems like a stupid thing to say, but um, it is when you're in a space that's set aside for creating, and you're creating within that space, and you're interacting with the other people in that space. And again, anything can, not anything qualifies as making, but anything that involves your own creativity, that you're creating something that you can share publicly with someone else, counts as a makerspace. Halverson and Sheridan call it a set of activities that can be designed with a variety of learning goals in mind. And we'll talk a little bit more about how makerspaces are set up for learning goals. They also call makerspaces a community of practice, and the key word there is community. It's not, if you have a room with like all laser cutters and all the 3D printers and vinyl cutters in the world, but you don't have people, or you have one person in there, it's not a makerspace. It's got to be a place where there's an exchanging of ideas and people are excited about it. Why are makerspaces getting so popular now? It's definitely the buzzword, and I think people are wondering um, where did this come from? So, because the thing is, we've always had people, space, and stuff. So why are we talking about makerspaces now? So the first thing is that now there's access for digital, low cost digital desktop tools like the Creative Cloud from Adobe, and lots of low cost hardware. So now you can get a microcontroller that can, costs like $20, but can control a bunch of LEDs and sensors in a way that you couldn't do like 10 years ago. And it's like this big. It's this big. So there's just so much more you can do for a lower cost. And there's also now a collaborative online culture, thanks to things like YouTube and Inventables. We can exchange ideas with people we don't even live near. So there's, if you have a question about how to put something together, how to solder something, if somebody in your own physical proximity doesn't know how to do it, you can always go online and figure it out. So post a question somewhere. So these are the things that have kind of really gotten have make makerspaces really take off in a way that we now have a name for them, makerspaces, and there's a whole community around them. There's also, in terms of education community and why they're getting popular in the education community, is that we're focusing more on process and deep understanding, and not so much on what the end game is, what the results on the on the fill in the blank or the multiple choice test are. If you're talking about the Common Core state standards or the NGSS or the Next Generation Science Standards, those are all really interested in how the student gets to how they get to their final product, not just what their final product is just what their process is, and that they get real deep understanding, not superficial understanding. And because of makerspaces like focus on the collaborative and the design thinking that happens, they're becoming popular because they're a place for these things to come out. So before I move on, I noticed we have more people who've joined us, so I just want to learn a little bit more about you before I keep so that I can aim my talk more at you. So do you mind telling me a little bit about like how are you K-12? Are you university? You can just put it in the chat box. That's right under here. Higher ed, okay. It's K-12. And okay, cool. Okay. And then Rit and Robin and Debbie, do you already have makerspaces in your schools? And Chad, you can join in too if you like. Okay, great. So you're all kind of just starting off. And I was speaking before we started. I was speaking with Debbie about the impact of libraries, and libraries are playing a really important part in integrating makerspaces into schools because they don't have the same curricular requirements that classrooms do, and still have that overarching goal of reaching out to the community and educating. So they're kind of a great place in your school to put out a makerspace. Um, yeah. It's really the librarians have really taken off with makerspaces, and they're doing a fantastic job of it. Um, so I'm gonna so we've already talked about what they are and why they're becoming popular. I think we can talk a little bit about why they're important. Um, and This is Seymour Papert. He is. Have you heard of Constructionism? The learning theory of Constructionism. Okay, great. So he was a student of Piaget. So and Piaget is known for constructivism. Uh, Constructionism kind of builds on constructivism. What's important in constructionism is the idea of appropriation, kind of like what Piaget said about, what the student does is kind of take the schema of what they already think is going on. But then in this case, they appropriate it, they make it their own with what they've learned and what they do. Um, then There's an engagement with others. What's really important to constructionism is that you make, but you don't make for just yourself. It's not constructionism if you just create something and then no one ever sees it. It's got to be something that's shared, that's made public, because the learning happens in the interaction with others. And that understanding is more important than memorizing. If you just memorize facts, and you're all in education, you all know this. You're not really learning anything. It's really deep in understanding, and this is what we talked about with the NGSS and the Common Core. That they're more interested in process and deep understanding than just if you can spout off a bunch of facts. So what are the educational underpinnings for a successful school makerspace? Do you guys have any ideas? Let me hear from you first. What do you think is important for a school makerspace to be successful? Open access, that's great. Yeah. Yes, Debbie, a good leader. Student choice and voice. Oh, you guys got it. Yes, excellent. Yeah, all of those things. So, um, so as Robin said, and Megan mentioned, student choice and voice and lots of variety. You have to help the student identify as makers. And let them feel like they are part of that that community, whatever that community may be. So they identify as a programmer, they identify as a designer, as an artist. I find something that in the work that we do, we're trying to bring back show and tell. Show and tell kind of dies out after fourth grade, and it really shouldn't. Like, we should be doing show and tell like at our workplace as adults, because it's something that we bring, something we made, and we show a little bit of ourselves, and it's a point to talk about, and it's really important that we both show it and talk about it, and that there's an interaction with other people. And it helps us identify ourselves as like, look at what I made, look at what I did, and I want to talk to you about it. I think notebooks are a big deal. I think just it doesn't actually. I personally am partial to actual paper, old school notebooks for students to sketch out their designs and what they're thinking, and just so that they can see the progress of their learning. However, you could have a blog that kind of documents how a project has moved along. The point is really to document the learning and see the process throughout, see progress. It's You really want the kids to think through how they've solved the problem, what worked and what didn't, for them to celebrate failure, that this didn't work and this isn't why it didn't work, and I learned from this, because that's something that we really have to do. You really have to build community, and I think that's super important. Do what you have to do for building community. Definitely have the kids share out, do critiques, have maker fairs, and those are just when kids have final-ish projects. They don't have to be completely done, to share them out with everyone else. Like, just set a date and have everyone come see what the students are working on. Food always helps. Like, if you feed them, they will come. So if your after school makerspace has cookies, occasionally kids are going to show up. And I kind of wish I had put some of the stuff that you guys had thought of here. So the real world applications are a really big deal. That's huge, because students want to feel like the work that they're doing is relevant. I've seen making that stuff where it's I'm thinking of one program where we had like robotics, but the kids like knew this wasn't a robot that could actually do anything, and they didn't take it seriously, because they're like, well, like, this isn't this is a toy. This isn't actually a robot that's going to help anything. So students are really interested in things that have actual real world applications. And like Rit said, like the failure thing is huge. Like, I'm working with some people who are really interested in the celebration of failure, and it's really fascinating work that they're doing about getting kids to talk about failure and just like what they've learned from it, and how cool it was that they're like, when they like talking about epic fails, like just what happened with that epic fail. Um, and what Megan's mentioning about the maker mindset, the idea of being iterative, that you can keep working at something over and over again. It's just, this is not like you do it and you're done. It's just kind of like slowly working at something that it can always improve it, and have kind of this evaluation thing, like, how can I make it faster? How can I optimize it to make it a little bit better for the user? So I'm going to talk about this again, but this book is fantastic. It's Invent to Learn, by Martinez and Steger. And if you're just starting off in Makerspaces, it's a great book. And I have it written down later on. Yeah, it's a great book. And one of the things they talk about, and I think this is a great way to start off your Makerspace, is prompts. You should have some. I think it's really overwhelming for students if you have a bunch of stuff, and then you're like, okay, well, what are you going to build? And kids aren't used to that. It depends on your school, but if you're in a school that they're used to very regimented kind of curriculum, it's a little overwhelming to just be like, what do you want to make? Just make anything. So a good idea is to have prompts. And here are the things that Martinez and Steger talk about in terms of what kind of what should be the kind of prompt. So you want them to be personally relevant, allow sufficient time, be complex enough, uh, be novel. So and they talk about good prompts versus bad prompts. They have this one example, like a bad prompt is build a four-wheeled car that uses two motors, one switch, and rolls from starting line on this table and stops as close to the finish line as possible in exactly 1 minute. I mean, that's a bad prompt because you're removing all creativity from that. A good prompt is make something that'll start here and end there in 1 minute. So you want to make these open-ended. You want to make it so that the student really has to use their imagination and ingenuity to make something different. And that's a great way to get kids started. And once they get going, they might not need any prompts. They're just like, no, you know what? I really am into editing music on this music program, and that's really what I want to do. And you have a music editing station, and they can go do that. In Chicago, we have U Media, which is in our public libraries, and they're really impressive to see because you see students go there after school and they just go off and do their own thing. But they also provide for the students these prompts. So if the student isn't sure what they want to do, there's always a challenge or something for them to do. I think also for it to, I think we want to move away from the makerspace being this after school side thing. I think because of Common Core and the next generation science standards, they're proving that we want to bring these things. Making just shouldn't be this after school afterthought kind of thing. It's really something that should be brought into the curriculum. So you want to get your teachers excited about it too, and thinking about ways that they can bring it into the classroom. So that includes, language arts and English. They can, writing, and you can have writing circles. I have a colleague at the center who does like really amazing things with kids in doing writing circles for them to really polish their writing and interact with other kids who like writing. Definitely all kinds of art. You can make interactive art. And again, like these microcontrollers, like the Lily Pads or any Arduinos or the Raspberry Pis, they're so inexpensive now. So you can do all kinds of really interesting things with art, either screen based or physically. That's really amazing now. The same is true. You can use all those things for music, science, and math. So my interest lies in computational thinking. So I'm interested in how kids learn about things like circuits and how they develop their computational thinking skills through that, and how we can bring that into the classroom by making stuff, like stuff with circuits, with Arduinos, with Makey-Makeys. Has anyone ever used a Makey-Makey before? Okay, so let me describe them to you. I'll type them in here. I don't have a slide on them. So that's how you spell it. It's a Makey-Makey. And what it does is it replaces your computer keyboard. So the students can then start working out different kinds of sensors for how to interact with the computer. So you can plug it into your computer, and then you can control a game with anything that's conductive that you plug into the Makey-Makey. So you can make it move with bananas, or uh, we've had kids who wrapped their feet in foil and then like stepped on uh, conductive pads to actually make like Dance Dance Revolution and stuff. Um, they're super cool. They're fantastic. And they're a great way to get kids introduced to the idea of a microcontroller without actually a lot of the programming needed. You can do a lot of that through Scratch. Has anyone ever used Scratch? It's a very simple, visually based programming language. It's MIT's Scratch. I can put up links to all these things. Actually, I'll do it when we're done chatting. Yeah, so MIT Scratch is a great way to get kids used to programming and starting off. So how can I implement making in my class or in my school? Start really small. So you do not have to start off with, as I was saying before, I don't think you have to come in with like a 3D printer, a laser cutter, and all this stuff. Just get like, a makey is about $60 if you wanted to start off with that. If you don't have that money, you can start off with Scratch, which is free. Kids can start programming with that. There's free audio editing software. There's free screenwriting software. There's all sorts of things that you can, and if you have the Adobe software, if you have Creative Cloud, you can have that in your classroom to start off with the students and getting them used to design. And you can do this with, oh, that's great to know, Megan. I didn't know that. Free kits to teachers. Okay. So you can apply for grants. And Donors Choose is a great way for K through 12 to get stuff into the classroom. So you can start with the Creative Cloud. You can start with just real inexpensive microcontrollers that you can connect to your computer. Just art supplies, any kind of art supplies, you can do that as well. You don't have to have everyone in your school involved. It can be just your class. It can be, you just have it on a table in one room, and whoever shows up, shows up. And it can be a small space. Definitely get a teacher partner. Somebody before mentioned having leaders are really important. I think it's important to have like a backup leader too. Like you don't feel like you're the one always in charge, and you have somebody to bounce ideas off of. Robin, totally get her hired to donate tools, and tools are huge. Like just getting kids getting used to using a screwdriver and hammers. They love it. They love it. And as a lot of you mentioned, the librarians in a lot of sense are super excited about this, and they have a lot of resources because there's a lot to in the library community to share out. The Adobe Ed Exchange has a lot of ideas, and there's lots of PD there on what you can do. Prompts, kind of things, kind of projects you can do with your students in a makerspace if you're not really sure where to begin, and give them these like little challenges. Like it can be, the normal like old school like egg drops or getting one thing from one end to the other. We've asked our students, like the prompts we use is like make an indicator, make something that sets off some kind of alarm, but that's all we give them. They just have to come up, they have light bulbs and buzzers and wires and batteries, and they just have to indicate something. So yeah, that's great. Reach out to local universities and local businesses. They will, we've had like a place that we've done our conferences at, they will just donate tons of supplies to us because they don't need like 18 million binder clips. So they give us a ton of binder clips. And, kids will come up with things to do with binder clips. So that's a great idea. That's definitely a great thing to do. And let the kids hang out there during free time. Like make this a place where they want to go chill and start playing with stuff. How can you implement making in your class school? Again, Invent to Learn by Martinez and Steger is just a great place to start. It's really good, and they have a very strong background in constructivism. Steger was a student of Pappert's, and they're very they have a really strong idea of what they think making should be about and tinkering. So I would definitely check that out. Also, The Art of Tinkering by Wilkinson is a great book too for you to start out with. So now we have a little bit of time now for questions and discussions. I will put in, Megan's already put in stuff on Makey Makey, which thanks, Megan. I'll put in the link for Scratch for you to check out if you haven't done that already. And Makey Makey and Scratch work together beautifully. We use that a lot. I haven't seen Maker the movie. So, I mean, I guess I want to hear from you guys. Like, where do you want to go with making? What do you want to do in your classrooms? And what roadblocks are you hitting? What challenges do you have in doing that? Sure, Robin. So, is it just, are you the only one who's interested, or do you have someone else who wants to help out? Yeah, okay. Yeah, one thing, so I think one way to, oh, ain't that the truth? Just in education in general, things move slowly. I think a really big important part, and Megan, who's been popping in on this, is a really large advocate for this. I worked with her at the center, and I think a really important thing is to get the parents involved. So what Megan's done is she's taken making out into the community and done getting the parents interested. Um, and once they start seeing what the students are capable of and what they get interested in, it's a way to get a little bit more support for you in your school. Um, I think parents don't necessarily totally understand what's going on with making. And so it's hard for them to, if their kid's got a pile of junk in the corner of their bedroom, they don't, they might throw it out. They don't know what's happening. Um, Oh, sure, you're in higher ed. Sorry. Yeah, that's more complicated. But for K through 12, parents are it's a great way to get more interest from both. It deals with both funding and leadership in the school. You can get that through. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of universities are starting that. I can see though that I mean, when you're talking about higher ed, getting the makerspace off the ground, that would be that's tough. But I think again, if you can probably do it really tiny, and then hopefully you build from there, that people start getting really interested in it and start advocating for it more. If you can get just one faculty member to sign on to do something in their classroom and demonstrate how powerful it can be, that could be huge. Yeah, Nate Phillips would be good for Robin to talk to. If you want, you can direct message me afterward, Robin, and I can send you his contact info. That's a good idea, Megan. Oh, that's not a little makerspace. That's a big deal. You've got a 3D printer. We are another. That's huge. You guys are way set up. The problem, I'm guessing, is just getting more involvement. Um, that's amazing. That's really exciting. Sure. That's wonderful. Yeah, you kind of no, I understand. I understand. And you just kind of got to get like at least a couple that just sign on, and they're going to see how amazing that is. Like it's just going to do so much for them. Yeah, that's a good question, Megan. If there are teachers willing to give credit for pre-service teachers. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what I've noticed is lots of makerspaces have like they are really getting on the social media bandwagon. So they have Flickr accounts, they have Instagram accounts, they have Twitter accounts. So they just like constantly. It's a lot. It's I'm not saying it's not a small thing, but you can set it up so that one piece of social media shoots it out to all of them. But it's a way to get people connected. So a lot of the maker spaces that we're connected to have very heavy social media presence so that people start connecting to them and um, kind of know what's happening, what's going on there. I mean, if you see like a little snippet of a video of what a 3D printer can do or a laser cutter or something, and that's part of your university, you're probably going to be interested. Yeah, it is amazing. It is really amazing. How about anyone else? Is anyone else coming into any roadblocks, or is there stuff that you're excited about? That'd be a really lax policy if it's BYOB. Yeah, we've had happy hours at ours, and those were fairly successful. Okay, Debbie or Megan, do you want to talk about how it could be online? How you could have an online makerspace? Totally. Yeah, it's I think the tricky bit is getting yeah, I think if everyone's got the the creative cloud tools and they you set an online space and it can just be a blog where people share out the stuff that they do. You guys can have a closed Facebook group, something like that, that people just kind of start talking about what they're working on. You could have we could set it up as a weekly meeting. Now with Facebook Live, there's just there's so much you can do. You can have a Google Hangout. You could have an Adobe Connect meeting like the one we're in right now that everyone meets and demonstrates the stuff that they're doing. And then you get feedback as long as people interact about the work that they're doing. And I think you could do that digitally. That's pretty innovative, and I think it would be really cool. Yeah, yeah, a culminating event would be really nice like that. Um, you could even have like just like an email thread, just like here's what I'm working on, here's what's happening, and in the end have like an Adobe Connect room where everybody shares out the stuff that they're doing. As long as they're like documenting their progress and people are seeing and have input in on what they're doing as they're building it, I think that could be really cool. I mean, in my mind, the individual, but That's not to say that I think actually documenting the group and how the group progresses as a group would be actually fascinating as well. That's its own research project. But I think individuals, for their own learning's sake, I think should really document their progress. Having their own little blog that documents everything that they failed at, everything that screwed up and exploded, and what they did to resolve that, or what direction changes they took. I think that's huge. Yeah, and it could all link out to individual blogs. Exactly. So maybe one big blog that links out to the individual ones as people work on it. That could be really cool. Anyone else working on how to integrate makerspaces into their community? Be maker world. Or is maker world a thing that I don't know about? Oh wait, is that like the 3D printing thing? Yeah, it is. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I do like the I like the blog idea a lot. I think it would be really cool to have some like just have this like you watch it all happen online and having this one culminating event. Yeah, look what we came up with in this little. That's kind of amazing. Look at us in this little webinar. That's cool. All right. So yeah, you can definitely ping me at R Hadad on Twitter, and I'll be happy to answer any further questions if you don't have any more right now. Don't want to talk anything else about making. I really appreciate the time you spent with us today. I'm really excited about if you all want to ping me and we can put together this maker world idea. I think that'd be kind of huge. You can all say you were there when. And yeah, send me a an app message and I will I'll get you in touch with Nate Phillips. Um, yeah, thank you all and have a really nice night. Thanks for joining me. Um, and good luck making. I'm really excited to see what you all come up with. Please let me know like when you have your makerspace. I'd really like to see what you come